Black woman saves billionaire's son from a deadly accident. What he did next changed her life forever. What if a single act of courage could rewrite 2 lives forever? Before we dive in, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for Mr. Valentino Stories, where every story reminds you that love doesn't just happen. It chooses us when we least expect it. And tell us in the comments before the story begins. Backhand index pointing right. Do you believe love can grow from gratitude, or does it need something deeper? Now, let's begin our story. The rain didn't fall that night, it attacked. Wind howled down the empty Georgia highway like something angry, tearing through trees and tossing debris across the asphalt. Most drivers had already pulled over, waiting out the storm. But not Amara Williams. Her old Toyota rattled as she gripped the steering wheel, eyes squinting through the downpour. She had just finished a double shift at the clinic, 12 hours straight patching up people who could barely afford aspirin. All she wanted was to get home to her little brother, Malik. Then she saw it. A flash of silver lights twisted against a tree. Smoke. A car horn blaring endlessly into the rain. Her heart stopped. Someone was in that wreck. Without thinking, Amara slammed the brakes and ran into the storm. Rain soaked her scrubs. Her shoes sank into mud. She didn't even feel the cold, only the panic of someone fighting against time. Inside the car, she saw a man, young, unconscious, blood dripping from his temple. His seatbelt jammed, the hood sparking. She screamed, "Hey, can you hear me?" No answer. Then, flames. A spark caught the fuel line. She didn't hesitate. She yanked open the door, sliced her hand on shattered glass, and screamed through the pain as she dragged him out. 10 seconds later, the car exploded behind her. She fell, coughing, the man limp in her arms. His expensive wristwatch gleamed under the lightning. His pulse, weak. Barely there. "Stay with me," she whispered, pressing her palms over his chest. "Don't you dare die on me." She started CPR right there in the rain. And when his chest finally rose, just once, just enough, she sobbed with relief. She had no idea the man she'd just saved was Ryan Cole, the only son of America's most ruthless billionaire. And that this moment would change both their lives forever. Blue and red lights blurred through the storm. Paramedics arrived minutes later, shouting orders, hauling stretchers, and asking questions Amara could barely answer. Her hands shook as she wrapped her cut in gauze. A paramedic asked her name. She gave it, then quietly slipped away before the cameras came. She didn't do it for attention. She did it because someone was dying. At home, Malik was asleep on the couch, textbooks scattered. Amara changed her bandage, stared at her trembling reflection in the bathroom mirror, and whispered to herself, "You did what you could, Amara. That's enough." But that night, she couldn't sleep. The image of his face, pale, lifeless, haunted her. She didn't even know his name. The next morning, every channel screamed the same headline. Billionaire's son, Ryan Cole, miraculously saved from fatal crash. Unknown woman vanishes after heroic rescue. Amara froze mid-coffee sip. Her phone buzzed non-stop with coworkers sharing the news, but she said nothing. At the clinic, the buzz continued. "Did you hear? The Cole family's offering a $50,000 reward to find the woman who saved him." Another nurse gasped. "I'd sell my kidney for that kind of money." Amara smiled weakly but didn't join in. Her rent was overdue. Malik's tuition bill sat unopened on the counter. But she wouldn't, turn her act of compassion into a transaction. Across the city, inside a private hospital suite, Ryan Cole opened his eyes for the first time in 2 days. Everything was white, the walls, the sheets, the sterile smell of wealth and control. His father, Thomas Cole, stood by the window, phone in hand, barking orders. "You'll issue another press release, triple the reward if needed. I want that woman found by tonight." Ryan croaked, voice dry. "Dad." Thomas turned, face tightening with relief for only a second before turning to business again. "You're lucky to be alive, son. We can't afford bad publicity right now, This story could help the company image. People love hero rescues. Ryan closed his eyes. It wasn't about publicity. He remembered flashes, fire, rain, and someone's trembling voice saying, "Don't you dare die on me." That voice, it was his lifeline. He needed to find her. Not for the cameras. For himself. That evening, Amara walked home through the cracked sidewalks of South Atlanta, where kids played barefoot under streetlights and police sirens blended with laughter. Her world was real, raw, and unpolished. Bills taped to her fridge. A half-empty fridge. And yet, it was home. Meanwhile, across town, Ryan attended a press conference from his hospital bed, cameras flashing. He was handsome, in a clean-cut privileged way, but there was a flicker of sincerity behind his smile. He said into the microphones, "To the woman who saved my life, wherever you are, thank you. You didn't just save me. You changed me." Millions watched. Including Amara. Her eyes filled, but she whispered to the TV, "You don't even know me." A week later, Amara was working the night shift again. A limo pulled up outside the clinic, unusual in her neighborhood. Out stepped Ryan Cole, still in recovery clothes, walking carefully with a cane. Security guards flanked him, but he waved them off. He approached the front desk where Amara stood, clipboard in hand. "Excuse me," he said softly. "I'm looking for someone named Amara Williams. I believe she works here." Her pen slipped from her hand. When their eyes met, he froze. Recognition hit them both at once, like lightning in reverse. The man she saved. The voice that called her back from fear. "It's you," Ryan whispered. Amara's heart pounded. "You shouldn't be here. You need rest." "I've been resting too long," he said, his smile small but grateful. "I came to thank you properly." "I don't need thanks." "I think you do. The world should know what you did." She shook her head. "The world doesn't need to know. You do." The quiet between them held more meaning than words. Over the next few days, Ryan visited again and again. At first, under the pretense of checkups. Then, just to talk. He'd sit in the clinic waiting area as kids ran around, nurses rushed by, and Amara juggled patients and paperwork. He loved it. The rawness, the honesty. No pretense. One evening, he asked, "Why didn't you take the reward?" She smiled sadly. "Because helping someone shouldn't need a price tag." He stared at her, the woman who had nothing but gave everything. For the first time in his privileged life, Ryan Cole wanted to be better. If you were in Amara's shoes, struggling, exhausted, and still chose to save someone you didn't know, would you tell the world, or stay silent like her? Speech balloon, drop your thoughts in the comments below. What would you have done? Morning sunlight poured through the tall hospital windows, gilding everything in a faint gold haze. Machines hummed quietly beside Ryan's bed. The rhythm of life had slowed to soft beeps and whispered footsteps. Amara stood by the doorway, still in her pale blue volunteer scrubs, unsure whether to step closer or slip away unnoticed. For 3 nights she had barely slept. The crash replayed in her mind. The screech of tires, the way she'd dived forward without thinking, her hands trembling as she'd pulled the unconscious man from the wreck. Now that he was awake, she didn't know what to do with the quiet gratitude in his eyes. Ryan shifted against the pillows. "You're leaving already?" His voice was hoarse but steady. "I just wanted to check your vitals before my shift ends," Amara said, forcing a professional tone. "You're stable. That's good news." He smiled faintly. "Stable because of you." Amara's cheeks warmed. She turned toward the window, pretending to adjust the blinds. Anyone would have done the same. "Not everyone runs toward fire," he said softly. "Most people run away." She didn't answer. She'd learned long ago that praise from rich men was like perfume, pleasant but fleeting. Still, something about his gaze, open, searching, made her chest tighten. Ryan studied her in silence. The woman who'd saved his life wasn't like anyone from his world. There was a quiet grace about her, a strength that came from somewhere deeper than privilege. When she finally turned back, sunlight caught in her curls, and he forgot, for a moment, that his father's empire was waiting outside the hospital walls. 3 days later, Ryan was discharged. Cameras flashed as the son of billionaire Robert Callahan stepped out of the building. Reporters shouted questions, hungry for quotes about the miracle survivor. Ryan's security team tried to usher him into the waiting car, but he hesitated. "Where's Amara?" he asked. "She's still inside, sir," one guard replied. Ryan's jaw tightened. "Then I'm not leaving yet." Inside, Amara was sanitizing a tray of instruments when a nurse whispered, "Your VIP wants to see you." She frowned. "VIP? Ryan Callahan. He's refusing to leave until you come out." The hallway seemed to shrink around her. She wasn't used to being called out publicly, especially not by someone who lived in headlines. But when she stepped outside, the noise fell away. Ryan stood beside the car, bandaged but upright, his smile quiet and genuine. "You never told me your full name," he said. "Amara Cole," she replied cautiously. He nodded. "Amara. I wanted to thank you properly." He gestured toward a small velvet box. Inside was a simple gold bracelet, elegant, understated. "For saving my life." She blinked. "I can't accept this." "It's just a gift," he said. "Not a payoff." She hesitated, then shook her head. "You don't owe me anything. I was just there." Ryan's smile didn't fade. "Maybe I owe fate, then." The crowd's murmurs rose again as cameras zoomed in, but Ryan ignored them. "Can I at least buy you coffee? Off camera?" Her laugh was nervous. "You think I have time for coffee with a Callahan? I think you deserve one." Something in his tone, soft, unassuming, made her relent. "One coffee," she said, holding up a finger. "After my next shift." The next evening, they met at a small cafe tucked between an old bookstore and a flower shop. No reporters, no entourage. Ryan wore a cap and hoodie, almost blending in, though his posture still carried the quiet command of someone used to being obeyed. Amara sipped her latte. "So, what's it like almost dying?" He chuckled. "Honestly, it's like waking up and realizing you've been asleep for years." She raised a brow. "Deep." "I mean it," he said. "Before the crash, everything was about the next meeting, the next deal. I didn't even remember what the sky looked like without a glass roof over it. And now I see someone who ran into flames for a stranger. Makes me wonder what I've been doing with all my money." Amara looked down at her cup. "Don't start feeling guilty. Just live better, maybe." He studied her. "How do you do that?" "Start small. Help someone who can't repay you." "Like you did." She smiled faintly. "Exactly." Later, as they walked outside, a light drizzle began to fall. Ryan pulled off his hoodie and draped it over her shoulders. She wanted to protest, but the warmth of the fabric and the scent of coffee and rain silenced her. For a long moment, they stood beneath the streetlight, two worlds brushing together in the glow. Ryan looked at her, not as a savior, not as a curiosity, but as a woman who had unknowingly taught him how to feel again. "Amara," he said quietly, "I want to do something that matters. But I don't know where to start." "Then start where you are," she replied. "Right here." He nodded slowly, the decision forming behind his eyes. "Then I'll start with you." Her heart skipped, unsure of his meaning. Before she could ask, his driver's horn broke the moment. Ryan slipped his hoodie back on, gave her a smile that lingered, and disappeared into the night. That evening, Amara couldn't sleep. She told herself it was exhaustion, but her mind replayed every look, every word. She wasn't supposed to feel anything. Not for someone like him. But the next morning, an envelope arrived at the hospital reception desk, sealed in navy wax. Inside was a letter on thick stationery. "Dear Amara, I don't believe in coincidences anymore. I'm starting a foundation in your name, the coal fund, for emergency responders and everyday heroes who act when others hesitate. I'd like you to help me build it. Ryan. Her hands trembled as she read it again. The billionaire's son wasn't just saying thank you, he was rewriting the story of her life. What would you do if someone powerful suddenly used their influence to change your destiny? Would you trust it, or walk away, afraid of what love and gratitude might cost? The letter sat on Amara's kitchen table for hours. She made tea, paced the floor, tried reading it again. A foundation in her name. It felt surreal. Too large, too loud for her quiet life. She'd built her world on humility and service. The thought of stepping into Ryan Callahan's orbit both thrilled and frightened her. That evening, she called her best friend, Tasha. "Girl," Tasha said through the phone, "if you don't take that opportunity, I'll come over there and sign the papers myself." "It's not that simple," Amara murmured. "He's a billionaire, Tasha. People like him live in headlines. People like me clean the rooms after the headlines fade." Tasha laughed. "You pulled that man out of a burning car. You are the headline." Amara smiled softly. But the truth still pressed on her chest. She'd been here before, promises from people with power that ended in disappointment. What if this was another one? 2 days later, a black SUV pulled up outside her apartment building. Ryan stepped out, dressed casually in jeans and a white shirt. He looked more like a man searching for peace than the heir to an empire. "Amara," he greeted, offering a hesitant smile. "I thought I'd come explain in person. I hope that's okay." She blinked. "You came here. I couldn't just send an email. Can I come up?" After a pause, she nodded. Inside, her apartment was small but warm. Soft plants on the sill, a candle burning low. Ryan looked around as if absorbing every detail. "This place feels alive," he said. She chuckled. "It's called rent control." He laughed, then sat at her kitchen table. "Listen, about the foundation, I wasn't trying to overwhelm you. I just realized, what you did changed me. And I want to build something that honors that." Amara crossed her arms, studying him. "And you think I'm the right person to help?" "I know you are," he said simply. "You have courage, empathy, things money can't teach." His sincerity disarmed her. She sat down across from him. "What would I even do?" "Whatever you want," Ryan said. "I can fund it, but you'll run it. Hire the team, choose the causes." Amara hesitated, but something deep inside, a voice that had always told her to play small, began to flicker. "I don't know," she whispered. He leaned forward, his gaze warm. "You've spent your life saving others, Amara. Maybe it's time you let someone help you build." A week later, she found herself standing before a glass skyscraper downtown. A sign on the door read, "The Cole Foundation, in partnership with Callahan Global." Her heart pounded as she entered the lobby. Inside, Ryan greeted her with an easy smile. "Welcome, Director." She laughed nervously. "Director? You're running this," he said. "That's not a title I hand out lightly." The office was bright, with soft green walls and framed photos of first responders, paramedics, volunteers, everyday heroes. Amara felt something bloom in her chest. Pride. They spent hours discussing logistics, projects, outreach. Yet beneath every exchange was an undercurrent, something unspoken. Their laughter came easier. Their glances lasted longer. At one point, Amara caught him staring as she explained a proposal. "What?" she asked, smiling. Ryan shook his head. "Nothing. It's just, you make things make sense. You walk in, and chaos organizes itself." Her cheeks flushed. "That's the nurse in me. That's the leader in you," he corrected softly. Their eyes held for a second too long. And in that second, something shifted. By evening, rain streaked the glass walls of the Foundation's boardroom. Everyone else had gone home, leaving only the two of them. Amara stood by the window, gazing at the city lights. Doesn't it scare you? Ryan asked quietly. What? The idea that life can change overnight. She turned to face him. It's the only way life ever changes. Ryan stepped closer, his voice low. I keep thinking about that night. How different things would be if you hadn't stopped. Don't, she said softly. You survived. That's what matters. But maybe surviving isn't enough anymore, he replied. Maybe it's about why. The air thickened between them. Amara's breath caught. Ryan. He stopped, realizing the moment had teetered too close to something fragile. He stepped back, forcing a smile. Sorry. I didn't mean to. It's okay, she interrupted, her heart pounding. I didn't say you had to stop. Their eyes locked again, searching, uncertain, burning quietly. The thunder outside broke the silence, echoing like a confession neither of them could voice. Over the next few weeks, the foundation took shape. They visited hospitals, met survivors, and listened to stories that mirrored their own, ordinary people who'd stepped into extraordinary moments. Everywhere they went, Ryan saw Amara through new eyes. She wasn't just compassionate, she was magnetic. When she spoke, others leaned in. When she smiled, rooms seemed to shift. He found excuses to see her, checking on project drafts, bringing coffee, asking about her day. And each time, she'd roll her eyes but secretly wait for the next visit. Their bond deepened quietly, beautifully, until the world noticed. One morning, Amara's phone buzzed non-stop. Her co-worker burst into the office, holding a tablet. You need to see this. On the screen, a photo. Ryan and Amara, laughing in the rain outside the foundation, his hand brushing hers. The headline read, Billionaire heirs secret romance with his savior? Her stomach twisted. Oh no. Within hours, reporters camped outside the building. The whispers began. She's using him. She's after his money. It's all PR. Ryan stormed into her office, holding the same tablet. I'll handle it, he said, jaw tight. Handle it how? She demanded. This isn't just about you. My name's out there, my family. I'll fix it, he insisted. I'll make a statement. Don't, she said sharply. That'll only make it worse. Their eyes met, hers full of fear, his full of determination. You don't get it, he said quietly. I can't let them ruin what's real. What is real, Ryan? She asked, her voice trembling. This foundation. Or us. Silence. He opened his mouth to answer, but the door swung open. Standing there was a tall man in a charcoal suit, Robert Callahan, Ryan's father. Both of you, he said coldly, need to understand how the world really works. When love crosses class lines, does the heart truly win, or does the world always find a way to interfere? If you were Amara, would you fight for what feels real, or protect your peace and walk away? Robert Callahan's voice could silence a room, and that morning, it silenced the entire floor of the foundation. He entered without a word of greeting, his cane tapping sharply against the marble. At 68, Robert still carried the aura of a man who'd never heard the word no. His gray eyes flicked over Amara, measuring, dissecting. So you're the nurse, he said flatly. Amara straightened. Yes, sir. Amara James. He didn't shake her hand. I've read about you. Ryan's tone was low, controlled. Dad, this isn't the time. Robert raised a hand. It's exactly the time. My PR team just spent 12 hours cleaning up the mess your charity romance caused. Amara flinched at the words. Ryan's jaw tensed. It's not a romance. Then make sure the world knows that, Robert snapped. Because right now, it looks like the Callahan name is sponsoring a fairy tale, one that ends with a lawsuit. The air was heavy, brittle. Amara drew a steady breath. Mr. Callahan, with all respect, the foundation is legitimate. It's helping real people. People don't matter if the story ruins everything we built, he interrupted. You think the market cares about your heroics, Miss James? Investors only see distraction. Ryan stepped closer. You're crossing the line. Robert's gaze didn't move. You're my son. There is no line. He turned to leave, then paused at the door. End this, he said without looking back. Or the board will. The silence that followed was deafening. Amara stood frozen, her heart hammering. Ryan, I didn't mean for this. Don't, he said quietly, rubbing a hand over his face. Don't apologize for him. I should have seen this coming, she whispered. Your father's right about one thing. Your world doesn't forgive stories like ours. Our world, he echoed. You make it sound like they own me. She looked at him, at the man who'd saved her dreams even as he wrestled with his own. Maybe they do. That evening, Amara packed her bag and left the office early. Outside, the city was drenched in sunset gold, yet everything felt gray. Ryan caught up to her halfway down the block. Amara, wait. She stopped, but didn't turn. I can't do this, Ryan. Do what? This. She gestured helplessly. Be the woman everyone whispers about. The nurse who snared a billionaire. He stepped in front of her, his voice trembling. You didn't snare me. You saved me. Don't you understand that? Her eyes glistened. Saving you doesn't mean I belong in your world. And walking away doesn't mean you don't, he countered softly. They stood there, cars rushing past, the air thick with everything unsaid. Then Ryan reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. I was going to wait to show you this, he said. But maybe you need to see it now. It was a photo, a rendering of a children's wing for a new hospital. At the bottom, the plaque read, The Amara James Pavilion for Hope. Her breath caught. You named it after me? He smiled faintly. No. We did. You just didn't know it yet. Tears welled in her eyes. Ryan, this will make it worse. Or maybe, he said gently, it'll make it worth it. That night, Amara couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Ryan's face, that quiet defiance in his gaze, that sincerity that didn't belong to billionaires. She sat by the window, city lights flickering below, and whispered to herself, why does it hurt to love what you can't keep? Her phone buzzed. Ryan, meet me tomorrow. The old lighthouse near Harbor Point. Noon. She stared at the message for a long time, heart racing, logic fading, before typing one word back. Amara. Okay. Would you meet him if you knew love could destroy everything you've built, or would you protect yourself and walk away? Comment below what your heart would choose. The old lighthouse rose against a pale winter sky, its bricks washed in salt and wind. Seagulls wheeled overhead, and waves slapped against the rocks with a rhythm that felt almost like breath. Amara pulled her coat tighter and looked out across the gray Atlantic, wondering if she should have come at all. Ryan was already there. He stood near the railing, hands in his pockets, hair blown by the ocean wind. When he turned and saw her, relief flickered across his face, followed by the same mixture of admiration and ache that had haunted her since the first night she met him. You came, he said quietly. I shouldn't have, she answered, but her voice betrayed her. You said this was about the foundation. It started that way, he said, stepping closer. Now it's about us. She looked away, watching the tide swallow the rocks. There is no us, Ryan. There's your family, your company, your father. And there's you, he interrupted. The woman who pulled me from fire when everyone else froze. The woman who made me believe life wasn't just survival. His words hit deeper than she wanted them to. She closed her eyes. You don't owe me a lifetime because of that night. He took another step forward, close enough that she could feel the warmth of his breath despite the cold. This isn't debt, Amara. It's desire. Her heartbeat stumbled. Say it isn't there, he whispered, and I'll walk away right now. Amara swallowed hard. The ocean thundered below them. She wanted to tell him to leave, to make everything simple again, but simplicity had vanished the moment he'd looked at her with gratitude that turned to something more. She met his eyes. "I can't." That was all it took. He reached for her hand, slowly, giving her every chance to pull away. When their fingers touched, the world seemed to still. The gulls' cries faded, the waves quieted, and the distance between them dissolved. "I've spent weeks trying to make this logical," Ryan said softly. "Trying to tell myself we come from different worlds. But when I almost lost my life, the only face I saw was yours. Maybe that's not logic. Maybe that's fate." Amara felt tears sting her eyes. "You're talking like a man who's never had to live with consequences." He smiled faintly. "Then teach me what they feel like." She wanted to laugh, to resist, but his sincerity undid her. "Ryan, if we do this, there's no turning back." "I don't want to turn back." Their lips met halfway between fear and fire. It wasn't rushed, it was trembling, searching, like two people who had already lost too much to waste another second pretending they weren't meant to find each other. When they finally broke apart, Amara leaned her forehead against his chest, hearing the wild rhythm of his heart. "What happens now?" she murmured. He held her tighter. "Now we stop running." They spent the rest of the afternoon walking along the cliffs. The conversation moved easily between laughter and silence. For the first time in weeks, Amara felt weightless. Ryan told her about his mother, the only person who'd ever challenged his father, and how she'd died before he learned how to fight for what mattered. "She used to say the Callahans build towers because they're afraid of touch," he said. "Then you showed up, and suddenly I wanted to build something that breathes." Amara smiled. "That's poetic for a businessman." He shrugged. "You make me poetic." She nudged him playfully. "Careful. People might start saying the billionaire's gone soft." "Let them," he said. "Maybe softness is strength." The wind caught her scarf, whipping it around her shoulders. He reached out to fix it, fingers brushing the back of her neck, a gesture so tender she almost forgot how dangerous it felt to love him. As dusk fell, they stood watching the lighthouse light flicker on. Amara's voice broke the silence. "You know your father won't let this go." "I'm not giving him that power," Ryan replied. "He can take your company, your reputation." "Let him. I'll rebuild." He looked at her, eyes steady. "But I won't rebuild without you." Something inside her cracked then, not from weakness, but from the terrifying beauty of being chosen despite everything that said she shouldn't be. For a long time they didn't speak. The ocean did it for them, whispering of things eternal and untamed. If love demanded you risk the life you've always known, would you still choose it? Drop a red heart in the comments if you'd follow your heart no matter the cost. The morning sun filtered through gauzy curtains, turning Ryan's guest room into a watercolor of gold and cream. Amara woke first. For a few seconds she didn't know where she was, just the soft linen sheets, the distant crash of waves, the faint scent of cedar and sea salt. Then memory returned, the lighthouse, his hand catching hers in the rain, the way silence between them had felt safe. Ryan was asleep on the couch across the room. He'd insisted she take the bed. His hair was a tousled mess, his arm hanging over the edge. She watched him for a moment, smiling despite herself. The powerful billionaire looked so ordinary, human, peaceful. She slipped out to the balcony, wrapped herself in one of his oversized shirts, and stared out at the harbor. Fishing boats bobbed. A gull circled. The world felt simple again, for now. A knock on the door shattered the calm. It was Paula, Ryan's assistant, holding two phones and an expression that said trouble. Ryan's father's PR team just called. Someone leaked a photo of last night. You're trending, Amara. Within hours, the internet knew the story. Mysterious woman saves billionaire heir. News clips replayed the accident, the rescue, the candlelight from the lighthouse. Her face, caught in the glow. Overnight, she was a headline. Ryan woke to the noise, eyes heavy with disbelief. You shouldn't have to deal with this, he muttered, scrolling through articles. I'm not afraid of people seeing what I did, she said quietly. I just don't want them to twist it. His gaze softened. Then let me handle it. You saved my life. I can protect yours. But protection meant publicity. His team insisted they appear together at a press conference to control the narrative. Amara resisted at first. Her world was small, private. Her students at the community school didn't need this chaos. Yet when she saw how relentless the speculation had become, paparazzi camping outside her mother's small house, she agreed. One appearance. That's all, she said. It was held in a glass atrium overlooking the city skyline. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted. Ryan's father, Richard Hamilton Sr., appeared stoic beside them, shaking Amara's hand for the cameras. But beneath the performance, there was tension. His grip was too firm, his eyes assessing. When a journalist asked if Ryan and Amara were more than friends, the room fell silent. Ryan hesitated only a second before replying, She saved my life. That kind of connection changes you. Amara looked at him, the sincerity, the risk in his tone, and felt something shift in her chest. A heartbeat louder, steadier. Over the following weeks, their lives intertwined. Ryan showed up at her community school, helping repair the old computer lab. He joined her for lunch breaks with the children. Word spread fast, the billionaire and the schoolteacher. The chemistry between them deepened, laughter over spilled paint, shared stories about their mothers, moments when their hands brushed and lingered a little too long. But not everyone approved. Richard Sr. began sending discreet reminders of her place, donations to the school, offers to help her relocate somewhere quieter. When she refused politely, he tightened the screws. Audits, inspectors, anything to scare her off. Ryan found out and confronted his father. The fight was brutal, echoing through the family estate. You think I care about headlines? Ryan shouted. I think you're confusing gratitude with love, his father snapped back. Don't throw away your legacy for a woman who doesn't belong in your world. Ryan left that night, suitcase in hand, and went to Amara's modest apartment near the pier. I'm tired of worlds, he told her. I just want us. Their first real date wasn't at a mansion or five-star restaurant, it was at a late-night diner. They shared pancakes and cheap coffee, laughing until tears blurred their eyes. For the first time, Amara believed he wasn't just a man she'd saved, he was a man she was meant to meet. But as love bloomed, tragedy returned. A second accident, this time at the Hamilton construction site, injured several workers. The media, hungry for scandal, turned vicious. Billionaire distracted by romance while safety lapses occur. Ryan's board demanded a statement. His father blamed Amara again. This time, she didn't run. She stood beside Ryan at the next press meeting, hand in hand, and said, Love doesn't make a man careless. It makes him brave enough to care again. The crowd fell silent. Cameras flashed. And in that moment, Amara stopped being the woman who saved him. She became his equal. For a brief time, Amara and Ryan lived like two people who believed love could silence the world. She moved into his coastal house. The press softened. Even Richard Hamilton Sr. appeared to retreat. But peace in the Hamilton world was never simple. Ryan's board had begun whispering. Investors feared his relationship with Amara was alienating partners. A secret vote was scheduled to remove him from his own company if he refused to restore confidence. Amara could feel the tension, even as Ryan tried to shield her from it. He smiled too easily, stayed up too late, answered too many calls in the dark. One night, she found him sitting alone in the study, staring at a framed photo of his late mother. She would have liked you, he murmured. She always said love doesn't need permission. Amara touched his shoulder. Then listen to her, not them. He smiled, but his eyes carried storms. Richard Sr. wasn't done. Behind the scenes, he planned something ruthless, a charity gala, one that Amara would attend as Ryan's guest of honor. It was supposed to be her moment of acceptance. But instead, the elder Hamilton leaked falsified evidence, suggesting Amara had been paid to rescue Ryan, a cruel rumor implying the accident was staged for attention. It was a devastating lie, planted in the tabloids the night of the gala. When Amara arrived, whispers followed her like perfume. "Is that her? Thought she was a teacher, not an actress. She's good at playing innocent." The humiliation hit hardest when a headline flashed across a journalist's phone mid-speech. "Black woman's heroic rescue was a PR stunt, inside the Hamilton family's hidden scandal." Ryan froze at the podium. Cameras turned. Amara's breath caught. "Ryan, tell them it's a lie," she whispered. "I will," he said. But the board chairman's eyes were warning him from the front row. He hesitated. Just long enough for the damage to sink in. The room erupted in flashes and murmurs. And in that silence between them, a silence colder than any storm, Amara realized the truth. He didn't know whom to fight for first, his heart or his legacy. She left the gala without looking back. The next morning, the internet was a battlefield. #Hamilton scandal trended worldwide. Amara's school received hate calls. Parents pulled their children out. Ryan tried to reach her, calls, messages, even showing up at her apartment, but she wouldn't answer. Not because she hated him, but because she needed to see what kind of man he would be without her holding him together. In the weeks that followed, Ryan's company imploded under pressure. He resigned publicly, saying, "If integrity costs me a title, I'll pay it. If love costs me my reputation, I'll rebuild from the ashes." The board ousted him anyway. His father disowned him. And for the first time, the billionaire had nothing but the clothes on his back, and the woman who wasn't there to see it. Meanwhile, Amara returned to teaching. She refused interviews, declined TV offers, and quietly helped rebuild the school with her own savings. At night, she still checked the news, not for gossip, but for any sign that Ryan was okay. One evening, a former student brought her an envelope. "Someone told me to give you this," the boy said, grinning. Inside was a single photograph, Ryan at a construction site, helping rebuild homes after a coastal flood. On the back, he'd written, "You saved my life once. Let me spend mine trying to deserve it." Tears blurred her eyes. For the first time in months, she allowed herself to hope again. Months later, a massive charity event was announced, this time not by the Hamiltons, but by the Hope Harbor Foundation, a non-profit Ryan had created with his severance payout. Its first initiative, rebuilding Amara's school and funding scholarships for underprivileged children. When Amara arrived at the ribbon cutting, Ryan was there, paint on his hands, dirt on his shoes, and the same smile she'd fallen for. "I didn't come to impress you," he said softly. "I came to finish what you started, saving people." "You already did," she replied, voice trembling. "You just had to save yourself first." The crowd applauded as the new school doors opened, but neither of them heard it. For a long moment, it was just them, the man she'd rescued, and the woman who had become his reason to live. Ryan reached into his pocket and revealed a small locket. Inside was a photo of her saving him that night by the bridge. "This isn't a reminder of what I owe you," he said. "It's proof that love can start in chaos and still build a future." He didn't kneel. He didn't need to. He just whispered, "Stay with me, not as my savior, but as my heart." Amara smiled through tears. "I already have been." They embraced as the harbor wind lifted around them, the same wind that had once carried screams and sirens now carrying laughter and peace. A full year had passed since the night Amara saved Ryan Hamilton from the river that almost claimed him. The world had changed. They had changed. The Hamilton Group was under new leadership. Ryan's father had quietly retired to Europe. Reporters now called Ryan the billionaire who chose compassion over power. His foundation, Hope Harbor, had expanded across 3 states, sponsoring disaster response teams and community schools. But Ryan himself had retreated from the spotlight. He lived in a modest coastal home near the school Amara now ran. Most mornings, locals saw him jogging along the boardwalk, coffee in hand, stopping by the school gates just to wave at the kids. Amara stood at her classroom window one morning and smiled as he waved. The world might remember him as a scandal, a savior, or a fallen heir, But to her, he was just Ryan, the man whose heart learned how to be human again. Do you believe people can truly change when love humbles them, or do they only rediscover who they always were? Late one afternoon, a sleek car rolled up to the school. Out stepped Richard Hamilton Sr., cane in hand, face older, softer. Teachers froze. Whispers followed. He found Ryan working behind the gym, sleeves rolled, laughing with a group of children building birdhouses. "Son," Richard began, the word hesitant, fragile. "I came to see the woman who changed you." Ryan wiped his hands. "You mean the woman who showed me who I really am?" Richard's eyes glistened. "I wanted power so badly I forgot what it was for. I see now that legacy isn't what you leave behind, it's who stands beside you." He looked toward the school windows where Amara watched quietly. "I'd like to apologize, to both of you." It was not a cinematic reconciliation. It was awkward, trembling, real. Ryan clasped his father's hand. "Then start by joining us. The kids could use someone to teach them how not to repeat our mistakes." Richard smiled. "That, I can do." Months later, Amara was honored at the state capitol for her service to education and community rebuilding. As she approached the podium, she saw Ryan in the crowd, standing beside her students, clapping the loudest. Her speech was simple. "A year ago, I pulled a man from the river. What I didn't know was that he'd pull me from my own fears, the fear that kindness isn't enough to change the world. It is. It always has been." The room rose in applause. For the first time, Amara didn't feel like the woman who saved someone, she felt like the woman who started something. That evening, Ryan took her back to the bridge where everything began. The city lights shimmered on the water. The repaired guardrail stood gleaming, new, but marked with a small engraved plaque. "Where love learned to swim." He turned to her, nervous and smiling. "I thought about a grand proposal, helicopters, fireworks, but the truth is, you met me when I was drowning. You didn't need a stage then, and I don't need one now." He pulled from his pocket a small wooden ring box, carved by one of the children from her school. Inside was a simple band of silver, engraved with a single word, "Always." "Will you build forever with me?" he asked. Amara laughed through her tears. "Forever started the night I refused to let you go." He slipped the ring onto her finger. The wind picked up, carrying laughter over the water that once carried fear. The screen fades in on Hope Harbor Elementary, 5 years later. Children run across a playground built with Hamilton Foundation funding. A mural covers the school wall, a woman pulling a man from the water, both reaching for the sunrise. Inside, Amara sits at her desk, a young boy drawing beside her. Their son, Caleb, the same curious eyes as his father. Ryan walks in, tie loose, holding lunch bags. "Forgot these again," he teases. Amara smiles. "You mean we forgot? Parenthood is teamwork, remember?" They kiss quickly before the bell rings. Outside, the harbor sparkles. The world keeps turning, unaware that in one corner of it, two souls who should never have met had rewritten the meaning of rescue. As they walk hand in hand toward the playground, the camera lingers on the plaque by the gate. "Love doesn't save you once. It keeps saving you, every day you choose it." Fade out. From tragedy to transformation, from accident to awakening, sometimes the person you rescue ends up being the one who rescues you. If this story touched you, tell us in the comments, what does being saved by love mean to you?